Chapter 25. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault, by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed, lest if he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders, and say, My husband's brother refuseth to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elders of the city shall call him, and speak unto him. And if he stand to it, and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, So shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel, the house of him that has his shoe loosed. When men strive together one with another, and the wife of one draweth near for to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand, and take him by the secrets, then thou shalt cut off her hand, thine eye shall not pity her. Thou shalt not have in thy bag divers weights, a great and a small. Thou shalt not have in thine house divers measures, a great and a small. But thou shalt have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have, that thy days may be lengthened in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. For all that do such things, and all that do unrighteously, are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, when ye were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not God. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it. In chapter 25 we have the law of beatings, and we have what's called the Levirate Law of Marriage. And Moses is reminding the people at the end that they need to deal with the Amalekites. At the very beginning here, it talks about if two men have a controversy, and they go and they will justify the righteous and condemn the one who is wrong. If it is decided, for instance, that the one who was wrong was evil, and a fine will not do, an apology will not do, and he needs or deserves or should be beaten, we have the instruction that the beating is to take place. The man is to lie down on the ground, and the beating is to take place right in front of the judge. There's two reasons for this. Number one, to verify that it actually happened, and that it happened in accordance with the severity that the judge had expected it to. That it wasn't something that was too lightly done or too aggressively done. And this was an important thing. The maximum number of stripes, number of times he could be hit, was 40. In order to be on the safe side, which the Jews were very courteous and very conscientious about being, that was usually restricted to 39. That way, if they counted wrong, they could be one out and everything would still be within the number. But this had to take place, and so the judge would see the result of his judgment, and he would be, I think, a little cautious, because this would never be a pretty thing. and he would be a little cautious about handing out judgments that were really painful to people if he could avoid it. Interesting thing here in Corinthians chapter 11, verse 24, remember correctly, 24, Paul writes that for Christ, the Jews beat him 5 times, 40 stripes less one. Paul went through this beating 5 times. Now, in between verses 5 and 10, we have what's called the Levirate Law of Marriage, and it doesn't have anything to do with the tribe of Levi. The word levirate has as its base the word Levir, which is Latin for husband's brother. And basically what it was designed to do was to see to it that it preserved the family and looked after all the members of the family. And because all the men could have more than one wife, if your brother died, you were expected under this law to take his wife in as your wife. That gave her a right to be looked after, cared for, have a house, have somebody who would provide her with food and clothing and whatever was necessary for her survival. And you were expected to do that as an obligation to your brother. There were some guys that didn't want to do this. And so there was a procedure in case they didn't want to do this. But some of the guys didn't want to do this for a very simple reason. The first son born to this woman would have inherited all of his brother's things, which would have meant, of course, that they wouldn't have been inherited by any of the other brothers, especially not the brother who was the father of that child. And so there would be a public shame if he wasn't willing to do that for his brother, and that's what this whole procedure was about. The story about the Amalekites is when they came out of Egypt, the Amalekites attacked the camp of Israel in the rear, where all the sick, the disabled, and the elderly were, and killed them. Not all of them, but killed a lot of them. Didn't have the courage to face the camp of Israel honorably, was quite prepared to attack people who were absolutely defenseless. And so the Lord's judgment here is very simple. When you're in the promised land, you've got yours, everything's all secure, you're going to go back and you're going to let the Amalekites know that I did not like that. And you're going to see to it that you're going to wipe their memory off the face of the earth, because they were such cowards as to destroy the lives of people who could not possibly defend themselves. The Lord is a great defender of the righteous and the poor and the weak and the defenseless, and God help anybody who takes advantage or causes harm to any of those people.